Expert Advantage Real Estate Show with Blake Sloan. Blake Sloan, one of the top real estate agents not only on the Grand Strand, but in the world. He's been featured in Forbes magazine, the Wall Street Journal, NBC, and many other publications. And now, the Expert Advantage Real Estate Show with Blake Sloan.
Welcome to Blake Sloan Real Estate Show. Brand new show. Probably, I'm going to say, one of the most important shows I've ever done. We've done this show for 12, 13 years now on the station. Lots and lots of reps every Saturday and Sunday for a very, very long time. But I'm sounding the alarm this week in terms of what's happening with the real estate market. Big news. I'm just telling you, a lot of people haven't really talked about this yet or even seen it, but we've seen massive slowdown in terms of the real estate market, almost to a standstill based on what's happening here with interest rates being up over 7%. We had another 20-year high this past week. And what's happening is we've seen sales drop almost 50% in terms of new properties that are going under contract. I'll talk about that. Most agents and people don't even know about that because they don't have the ability to track data real time. And so I'm going to talk about what's going on and really what to do if I'm a home seller, what to look for as a home seller. And again, things are still moving, but when you see a significant decline, maybe something that's almost 50% down from the peak, really 45% this week we'll talk about in terms of properties going under contract each week. That's something that's very, very worrisome. I'm not just getting that here, but I'm also getting that with friends across the country right now. Raleigh, North Carolina, Virginia, Phoenix, Arizona, Florida. It's almost like the threshold that we hit once it over 7% was a big deal. And so we'll talk about that. And again, I'm not going to be gloom and doom. I think there's a lot of different nuances in what's happening. Our team still did right at 20 properties under contract that we sold last week just alone. And so I don't want to sound the alarm fully in terms of what's going on, but I want to tell you we're not in the same market we were before. There's a lot of sellers that believe they were. And here's the deal. If you're a home seller thinking about selling, you need to take action now. I'm telling you. Been doing this a long time, 20 years, grew up in the business, mom, dad, aunt, uncle, grandpa, grandma. This is by far one of the most important shows I've done. And we'll talk about the different nuances. There's both some good news underlying piece. There's also some really bad news in terms of what's happening. And the reality is just affordability is not there. There's going to be pressure on price. The good news, if I'm selling, there's still buyers buying right now. There's still buyer confidence right now. There's still buyers looking to relocate here. And prices have not really fallen yet to the tune in which we've seen prices fall. And so we'll talk about it in today's show. We're going to dig in, really look at the overall macro market. For anybody has been looking at that or missed last week's show, you're seeing a 25% decline in terms of sales. But if I'm looking at real-time numbers, I'm looking at what's happening every single week and every 7-day period, and that number has truly fallen off a cliff. And so we'll talk about what's going on there. We'll talk about really what's going on in the local real estate market. Again, there's some great news coming up. This whole thing in terms of who's coming in the market to buy. A very large piece of the population is coming to buy. The problem is rates have gotten so high right now, they can't really purchase properties based on that, or they're waiting on the sidelines hoping that rates will come back down. And so we'll talk about what's going on, what to look for. But I do know I have a lot of friends across the country freaking out right now. I've been through this, and we'll talk about we're not really in a seller's market. We're not really in a buyer's market. We're in a skills-based market. We'll talk about what that means here in a few minutes. We'll talk about what to do if you're thinking about selling, you've been thinking about buying. I have a lot of success still right now. Some buyers who are buying, they can get in still. Sellers can give closing costs back, be able to buy interest rate points. Now we've been very creative in doing this, and thankfully, we've been in the market for a long time. Been doing this show, like I said, right at 12 years, maybe even longer, where a lot of agents, so they said there's some recent stats that showed 76% of agents haven't been in the market through a downturn. I started this company in October 2008, been in the business since January 2005. I've been actually in other real estate through vacation ownership since I was 18 in 2001. And so what we've seen here is ups and downs. We've really been able to dominate both. And I like this type market as a business person because guess what? Now you got to actually be good. A few months ago, back up until about March of this year, anybody out of high school could get their real estate license, take some photos on their cell phone, and get your house sold. Guess what? That party is over. There is no more of that anymore. You need someone who's good at what they do. You need somebody who's a specialist. You need somebody who has a lot of capital who can get your property the overall exposure that it needs. So we'll talk about that. We'll recap the macro market. Like I mentioned, sales even before off a cliff, 25% drop in terms of year over year. We're seeing it decline significantly. We're seeing prices now follow that. And so some quick housekeeping. If you want to go back and listen to these shows, remember we're both on Saturday and Sunday here on WRNN. And also we tend to take these shows. We stream them live on YouTube. Just Google Sloan Realty Group and Blake Sloan. They're on my personal Facebook. If you don't follow me on there at Blake Sloan, you can also follow the Sloan Realty Group page on Facebook. They're on the LinkedIn. And also we stream these in a podcast form, usually the next week, where you can look us up on your favorite podcast, either Apple, Google, Anchor FM. There's a lot of different ones you can use to kind of check those out. But big news there. Also big news this week in interest rates, another new 20-year high. One of the quotes I saw was another day, another 20-year record. And so big news there we'll talk about. And again, I'm not gloom and doom, but I want to just talk about, hey, look, this is serious. This is what's happening. That party is over. A lot of sellers don't realize it's over. And a lot of people aren't making moves fast enough to adjust for this, where you can still cash out at the top of the market, because here's the deal. Inventory is still very low. It's going to continue to remain low because everybody has a lot more equity now than back they did in 2008. And also, a lot of people are locked in at very low rates. We'll talk about that here in the rest of the show. We also have some amazing success stories. Our team of professionals has absolutely still been able to crush it. We've been training for this stuff on Tuesdays and Thursdays, just by me, for years and years now, prepping for this moment. So we'll talk about what's going on with that. We also bought another property this week from one of our potential sellers who came in, just said, look, I want you guys to instant buyout. Represent a fund with millions of dollars in it. We can come in and buy it out easy, hassle-free for you, and get your household fast and for top dollar for a very fair number as well. And so if you want to know more about that, reach out, call us, 843-808-SOLD. Also have some awesome stuff on the agenda we had from last week's show. We just did not get a chance to get to, and we'll do that in today's show for sure.
All right, a lot of stuff to get to. If you just tuned in for the very first time and you're not sure who you're listening to or what you're listening to, it's the Expert Advantage Real Estate Show, hosted by, of course, Blake Sloan. Blake Sloan has been called the Real Estate Whiz-Kid. It's been featured in Forbes magazine, Wall Street Journal, Realtor magazine, and other national publications. You've maybe seen him on TV with NBC and also the Fox and Friends Morning Show. You heard the personal endorsements here by Sean Hannity, also Barbara Corcoran, Gary LaVox. Put them all together, it's just totally unprecedented. Now, that's one thing. But the other thing is that Blake has trademark systems for both home sellers and home buyers. They are trademarked, so we can't give you all the details, but more than happy every week to tell you the most important part of that system.
Yes, and again, this is more important than ever. I made a promise myself, 8 years ago on this show, where I would talk about these things, and then some people that were big show listeners, they would have this horror story, and they call us after they had the horror story. I'm like, well, why didn't you just call me in the first place? And so it came down to the same mistake I saw being made over and over from everyone, and it didn't matter how affluent they were, how experienced they were, if they owned business, if they didn't own a business. It was crazy. I was like, man, why do they keep making the same mistake? And the mistake they make is thinking that all real estate agents are the same. It could not be any further from the truth. Just like any doctor, any lawyer, if you're charged with a crime you did not commit, the last thing you want is a part-time attorney who's only tried 4 cases before. And the last thing that you really deserve is someone who's done that. And the same thing from a doctor's standpoint, right? If I'm having an illness that's, very serious, or I'm, God forbid, diagnosed with cancer or something like that, I don't want some doctor who's a friend who's only worked on 4 patients, right? I want the absolute best specialist who's obsessed with what they do, who's the best in the country. And you should demand that same level of excellence when you're dealing with your largest asset. But for some reason, people don't do that. Say they want the cheapest or the one they know. And so here's the deal. You want the absolute best because you're dealing with such a large asset. Those small nuances and small details make or break the sale. And they make or break how much money you put in your pocket at the end of the day, or how much money you save when you're purchasing it. And so these details matter to you. It's something we're obsessed with in our team and our office. We talk about this thing. Details matter. And here's the deal. The single most important variable that determines your failure or success as a home seller comes down to one thing and one thing only. That thing is the agent that you choose, period. Not your wall color, not the grass quality. It comes down to the agent you choose, and specifically, how does the agent you choose actually execute? And the problem is you have one agent who's trying to juggle all these balls. And so it's almost like, imagine if you went to eat at McDonald's and you had the same person working the front register, the drive-through, the French fries, and the hamburgers at the same time. How great would that experience be, and how good would that food taste? Not very good at all. But for some reason in real estate, they use the same agent who's trying to juggle all these balls, both buyers, sellers, advertising, administration, closing coordination, administration in terms of contracts and deadlines, and all these things that one person is juggling. Is just like having the same person at McDonald's do all those front register, drive-through, French fries, hamburgers at the same time, and they can't figure out why the experience isn't great. Well, that's because that's an old school model. It's like an old school 8-track tape, and that would work back in the day in the late 80s, early 90s, because there wasn't technology involved. There wasn't thousands of websites and different types of technology and people searching on their cell phones. And so that's the old school model. In today's world, you need something that's more like an iPad 2. And so the single most important variable comes down to how they actually execute the overall variables from A to Z. And selling a property is 118 different variables from A to Z. If each one's handled correctly, guess what it does? Puts money in your pocket, property gets sold. If anything's handled incorrectly, AKA they drop the ball at any point. Guess what? That costs you your hard-earned equity, and you don't even know it many times. And so that's what happens when so many people say, well, so-and-so sold my house, but you didn't realize they just left $30,000 on the table, but you feel good about it anyways because you didn't go to the best. And so what I did, I said, look, there's got to be a better way. And I got in the business and everyone did everything, right? They did all the buyers, the sellers, the administration. And what I realized is not physically possible for one single person to do all the 118 different variables on one listing, much less doing on multiple listings. Like most agents have more than one listing. And so what most of these agents do is they do the 3 Ps. They promise you the world to get the listing. They tell you anything and everything that you want to hear to get you to sign that paper with them. The second thing they do is they take some obviously photos, and number 2, they put it into the MLS. And 3, they pray that someone else brings a buyer. And meanwhile, they're down the street hunting down the next listing, spending all their time prospecting for new listings instead of spending their time selling your house because they're trying to survive in the business. And the fact is that happens every single day. And that's why in our marketplace, the average agent sells 4 homes per year, 1 per quarter, which is terrible. There's not much knowledge or money to market with or anything there. And that's why you see so many people that are unhappy with the scenario at the end, and it comes down to how those variables get handled. And so I sought out and said, look, there's got to be a better way that's more efficient. And we sought out and designed this thing called the guaranteed sold system. It's the only system that basically sells homes twice as fast and for up to 20% more money than traditional methods. And it works very, very, very well. And what happens is we stack those dominoes of variables up and we handle them with 2 things: a team of people, and also processes and system through technology. And so everything happens the same way every single time. We manage that variable proactively with people and technology to make sure they get handled the right way in the right order, so that when we stack the dominoes in your favor and we knock them over, guess what happens at the end? It creates a massive gap between us and everyone else, and it helps your property sell faster and for more money. And what happened is it really opened up a new world, a new business kind of model that hadn't been seen before. We have a team model that's within a brokerage, and we operate all as a team of specialists, not a team of generalists. So when I got in the business, initially, I worked at big box stores. I worked at a Remax and Coldwell Banker. And guess what? As a Coldwell Banker, it's me and 200 plus agents. I didn't care about them. They didn't care about me. They hated me as the new kid coming in selling stuff. And many times they're trying to take my leads, and then they made fun of me and called me the internet kid. And what they didn't realize is that the consumer didn't know that even though we were all under that brokerage, none of us really cared about each other, and there was zero alignment between each of us. And so what I set out to do is say, how do I have a brokerage where everyone's in alignment and there's a team of specialists, not just a team of generalists who try and do everything? And so that's what we set out to design. And that's what made us the number 1 team in Myrtle Beach by almost double, number 58 in the country in North America, and in Forbes, Wall Street Journal, Fox News, all that because of the business model that's designed to do one thing, which is give you, the client, the ultimate competitive advantage when you're selling a property. On the flip side, guess what? There's 100 plus variables for buyers out there. If each one's handled correctly, guess what it does? It puts money in your pocket. You save it when you purchase. You get the home you want at the best possible prices. So we sought out design a system there. Really went A to Z on that to make sure we can give you the absolute access to the best deals, foreclosures, distress sales, desperate sellers, the absolute best negotiation in purchase price using data analytics and a team. Also through the home inspection to get you to that closing table successfully, and once again give you that ultimate competitive advantage when you buy that property. And so here's the deal: we're in an unprecedented market right now. What's happening? You're going to see massive changes very, very quickly. And for the most important thing that you need is an expert with a proven system and a proven track record who can help you get through that. And like I mentioned, recent data is showing 76% of realtors out there have not been through a downturn. And so they're not sure how to market when the market is not super, super hot. Back when it's a frenzy, anybody will buy your property. But now it's a market where, guess what? They got to be good. And so you need to ask a question of like, here's the deal, right? What strategies did you utilize in the last market downturn that you're going to be incorporating right now to get my home sold? How much experience does that agent actually have? How have they been through similar markets, and how do they market? And here's the deal: what's your marketing budget look like? How much money do you actually spend, and where do you spend that where? And so the market is changing. If you listen to this show for any time, and you have friends or relatives or anybody out there that's really kind of thinking about buying or selling, say, look, you got to call a true expert who knows what they're doing. Because here's the deal: I've been through this before. We dominated. I started my company in October 2008 as the market crashed, and it started crashing before. And we set out and did things differently with new school tools, new school technology, and it set us apart and helped us get massive results for our clients. It's the same exact thing we're going to do through any market change going forward. So take a quick break, right back in 2 seconds.
Right now, every detail means dollars, and who you hire to negotiate your home, that really matters. Hey, Sean Hannity here, and as an active investor who invests in real estate all across the great country of ours, I want the best negotiator representing my interests. I'm talking about Blake Sloan of Sloan Realty Group. They can help you navigate through multiple cash offers, and more importantly, he has turned complicated situations into 5-star reviews. Now check out his rave reviews on Google. Talk to him yourself. If you are on trial with big money at stake, you want a seasoned negotiator with thousands of victories.
Thank you.
If they will take you on and you can afford them, right? Well, your home deserves the best representation. Know your options. See how much demand your home can command in this market right now and get the best representation that you deserve. Call Blake Sloan today at 808-SOLD. That's 808-SOLD. Or online at blakesloan.com. That's blakesloan.com.
Hi, I'm Barbara Gordon. I'm excited to connect with Blake Sloan, the only real estate agent in Myrtle Beach that I recommend. You offer several options to home sellers, which really takes away the stress.
That's right. For sellers in a time crunch, you can agree to sell it by a certain date, pay cash for your home, or even rent it.
That's great. And if the seller has a bit more time?
Use our proven marketing plan to sell it for the highest price.
Work with my friend Blake Sloan and get the home sold on your terms.
Welcome back to the Blake Sloan Real Estate Show. The brand new market numbers, and they are interesting. And I made a big claim earlier, and I'm backing it up right now. Big changes in the marketplace right now. If you know, I've been tracking this for a while. Kind of just set this alarm three shows ago. So I guess that's 3 weeks ago. And I said, look, here's the deal. There's a massive change. Part of that had to do with the hurricane, but if you watch the real-time numbers, most agents are just watching the market numbers that come from the MLS. Everything looks month versus month. Everything right now is not that bad. It's only 25%. But here's the deal. If you look at how many properties go under contract every 7 days, it's a massive drop off a cliff. And it's really started once rates started getting at or 7% or higher. And this past week, a new 20-year record, up over 7.22%. And so here's the deal. Right now, last week's show, 440 under contract in a 7-day period. Right now, 415 properties under contract for $134,734,827. Here's the main issue, though. That's over a 45% drop from the peak. And so around the peak, we were seeing really between 800, 850, 860 under contract in a 7-day period, the top overall. And so now we're at 415, which is almost right at a 50% drop. And so you see 50% less buyers that are buying properties. Eventually, you're going to see these closings kick in. In real estate, we talk about this all the time for any of our longtime listeners. There's two types of numbers. There's the rear view mirror numbers, which is like, hey, look, what's most people talk about? They always talk about the rear view mirror numbers. That's what's closed. And so eventually we'll talk about this month's numbers in a second. We'll talk about this month's numbers that close next month because it's always in arrears. And what happens is the problem with making decisions based on the rear view mirrors, you're not seeing what's happening in front of you because the data there is really, they went under contract 30 to 60 days prior if they're actually closing this month. And so if you want to look at real time what's happening, the sales have been off a cliff. And so we were averaging, like I said, back at the peak, 800 plus properties a week. Right now, last 7 days, 415 properties under contract for $134 million. We were at $250 plus $1 million per 7-day period just earlier this year, back around March and April. And so now we're at 415. You're going to see a significant decline here overall. Right now, 922 active listings. Last week's show, 905 active listings. And this one thing, if you go back to just 20 weeks ago, we were looking at 690 properties under contract for $215 million. Here's my notes from back 20 weeks ago. I was concerned because there was a 25% drop in new sales. So you're seeing a significant decline here. What's happening? Back then, there was 13 properties over $1 million in a 7-day period. Right now, only 4 properties over $1 million went under contract in the last 7 days. Right now, if you look at how many properties over $500,000 under contract, basically only 50 properties over $500,000. And here's the thing. Things are still selling. What I'm saying is it's a little more difficult. That party we had before, you could just pick a price out of thin air, get any old agent who doesn't know what they're doing that just got their real estate license to take some cell phone photos and get it sold. That party is over because the problem is there's 50% less buyers right now, 45% actually, than there was previously. They're buying properties going under contract. You're going to see that number really kick in next month's numbers when they obviously start to show up. And you're probably going to see a very rough November, December in terms of actually close sales of what's happening. It's kind of happening all over the country. We'll talk about that really quick. One of the biggest news, I'll get to it early, interest rates. Last week's show, the interest rates were 7.10. Right now, 7.22. for a 30-year fixed rate, a 15-year fixed rate, 6.55%, a 30-year jumbo loan, 6.15%, a 5-year adjust rate mortgage right now, 6.45, a 30-year FHA, 6.75, a 30-year VA, 6.77. Now, here's the thing, though. We're getting a lot of buyers that can qualify and get a decent deal. Like we just had some get in the fives because they're doing a point buy down where we get seller closing costs. We're buying the points down, and you can get it down from 7 down to 5. And so there's some creative type stuff. But here's the thing. Most agents don't even know about them. We had people that we saw, buyers who had been declined by someone else, came to us. We actually had the foresight to say, look, let's buy the points down, get the number in debt to income and the monthly payment where it needs to be, and we're able to get the deal done. That's why you want experience. We're not selling and buying Best Buy TVs here. You're selling your largest asset for most people, right? One of your largest assets, if you're obviously, in the 1% there that has a lot of cash, a lot of other assets. But here's the thing. Real estate for most people is one of the largest assets. You want to make sure you have someone who knows the nuances, knows the ins and outs, and knows strategies to help get the property sold when it's not a super hot market. And so we'll talk about more about that. And from a buyer, you can actually buy right now, get decent numbers, and you can also get the points bought down, get closing costs back, and now you're not bidding against 20, 25 people per property as well. And so we'll talk about that, but that's put a giant stop on a lot of buyers, second home buyers, right? Because in a second home market, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac has an overlay that does increase interest rate because it is a second home property. We'll talk about that in the next show. But right now, if you look at the overall numbers from last month, they're very, very interesting to say at least. We've kind of just seen a 25% roughly decline in terms of those properties I'll talk about right now. If you look at single family resale homes right now, last month, closed sales down 23.1%. A few weeks ago, it was over 25. Some of those sales have been entered. So like right now, last month, 524 properties closed. If you go to September last year in 2021, it was 681. And so you're kind of seeing that continually decline. You're going to see that go down even more. We peaked out this year in March at 703 properties that closed, and it's continually gone down month versus month all the way since then. We hit a low this year in July at 509. I foresee you're going to see that be significantly lower than that here coming forward. So sales price, that's been kind of the magic number people have been talking about. It is a lagging indicator. If you look at year versus year, if you look at September versus September, it's up 7.7%, but that's not the right number to look at because we're looking at what's happening going forward right now. The prices peaked out this year in May at 380,000. So we have a lot of sellers like, look, I'm thinking about selling. I want to wait. If you're going to wait for a while, you don't want to wait too long because you're going to ride that thing down. We always know it's supply and demand driven. There's still people that can cash out the top. It's not going to be the top of the top, but you're going to get cashed out at the very top and you're going to get a lot more money because I do foresee prices going down a little bit. The one saving grace here is inventory. It's a little bit different market right now because inventory is very, very low. We'll talk about that in a second. But ultimately, you can't have a 50% decline in buyers and not see prices soften a little bit. And so what's happened is in May, it peaked out at 380, then went to 370, then to 350. We've been at 350 both for August and September in terms of price. So down from 380 to 350 for median price. Average sale price has reacted a lot more. So right now, average sale price is $420,537, down from the peak of $488. So that's significant decline there. Almost $60,000 that prices have declined overall for average sale price here on the Grand Strand. And you're going to see that continue more because we just saw the overall sales drop from, a 25% decline in buyer traffic, which I mentioned that a month or two ago on the show. And the one thing we're seeing, though, is inventory is still very, very low. That's why it's not a buyer's market. Anything 6 months or above is a buyer's market. But right now, it's only 2.3 months of inventory. It's up from the low of 0.9 months, but still very, very low. If you go back to just looking at October 2019, there was 5.3 months of inventory, double the amount of homes in the market. And so we're seeing a decline. Inventory is still very low. So it's a very weird place where you're not going to see prices just kind of drop because we're seeing institutional buyers still buy a lot of properties. A lot of people are locked in at very low interest rates at 2% and 3%, where before they basically didn't have any equity. When I was in the market in 2008, people wanted to sell. They couldn't sell because they didn't have any equity. Here, we've seen prices go up 70% in the last 5 years just in South Carolina alone. So that's something that's important to talk about as well. And so if you're thinking about selling, though, reach out to me. You want somebody who understands this data. But here's the thing. If you've been thinking about it for a second home, a rental, whatever it is, call me now. Do not hesitate. And let's go through the numbers because you can still cash out, get top dollar. Still massive amounts of buyers coming in. I'm just sounding this alarm. I say, look, we know that price always follows supply and demand. And so if you show that demand is down 50%, supply is up 53%, guess what? You're going to see soften price. And so take advantage now, cash out, sit on that cash, and you can sit back and buy something that's a very good price once rates go down. And also, there'll be a lot more better deals in, but you can't sustain having 50% less sales for too many months without having a lot of softening on price, and people are going to cost themselves a lot of hard equity. Do not wait too long for me in that scenario. So we got about 3 minutes left. I'm going to skip this break really quick and just hop into our hot buyers alert. That's cool. Hot buyers alert. That's one thing that I promise that makes us a lot different. Everyone says, what makes you a lot different, Blake? Here's the deal. We outspend the average agent 100 to 1. And as most agents who've been maybe freaking out by this, we're still spending massive, massive amounts of money. We haven't cut anything yet. We have buyers from all across the country. My team and I working with a ridiculous amount of home buyers all across the country who are looking to buy here, anywhere from 250,000 up to 4.3 million. One thing we're very proud of is sharing every week how many current home buyers we have on our website looking to purchase here. As of today, real time, right now, 69,715 active home buyers. Again, 69,715 active home buyers from all over. Aaron Santarella from Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. I got Kathy and Tony from Madison, Wisconsin. I got Tim from Bristol, Tennessee. Todd from Waxhaw, North Carolina. I got Sharon from Brooklyn, New York. I got Steve from Bangor, PA. All over the country. Here we go. Iona Fravel from Beverly Hills, California. And so we're getting buyers from all over. And the one thing makes us different in this market, you need agents who spend massive amounts of money, who get you the exposure you deserve. And that's what I've been doing here for over a decade. My business model gives me a massive competitive advantage. I outspend the average agent 100 to 1. And that's how we bring those 69,715 buyers to your property first, create massive demand for it, and sell them faster and for more money, because we also have a sales team behind that as well. And so I think we got 2 minutes left. Just want to get to an awesome success story. Our team's been absolutely crushing it still. We were built for this. We were talking about this, how we're training like Navy SEALs, where most agents out there are training like baby SEAls. And that's for sure. We push hard. We have the intensity, and that's what you need going forward in this market. So big shout out. Also, Fred and Marianne had their high-end luxury home listed with another agent who was a, quote, friend of theirs. Over 6 months, had zero action, few showings, zero offers. After months of frustrations, expired. Thankfully, they referred to Sloan Realty Group by an amazing radio listener. We came in and identified the problem, which was marketing. It did not look like $1 million house online. We came in, I designed a custom plan, launched our global marketing blitz, professional photos, the virtual reality walkthrough, drove massive traffic, had a bunch of showings, had Fred and Mariana offer more than they ever thought they could get for their property within 1 week. So your marketing matters. Last one here, Paul and Jan, past clients of ours. They recently want to get rid of their condo, move up to a single family home. Thankfully, contacted us first to help sell it. Their condo's in Little River, and they wanted to get top dollar for it. Thankfully, they had a great experience with us before. We helped them sell another home for them in the spring. They called us. We came in, shared exactly how to get it sold, designed a custom marketing plan, did professional photos, the actual virtual reality walkthrough, massive traffic, had an offer on their condo in less than 4 days. And so that's one thing. If you want, make sure right now more than ever, you need somebody in your court who can get those buyers. And so we'll talk a little about this show, next week's show. Don't freak out yet, but my job is to keep you ahead of the curve, and my job is to help you identify what's going on. If you want to make sure you get the absolute best representation, the absolute best marketing, and someone who's been in this market before a downturn, who's experienced, like myself and many people on my team, reach out, call me, 843-808-SOLD or BlakeSloan.com anytime. Also, question-wise, reach out, call me. Any real estate questions you have, reach out. We're here to serve you through the entire marketplace for weeks and years to come. So we'll see you here next week again.
WRNN listeners, Clay Travis here. As investors in real estate, Buck and I both know exactly what to look for to find the agent with the best tools and marketing to get the highest sales price possible for a home.
Totally true, Clay. And here in Myrtle Beach, that agent is our friend Blake Sloan of Sloan Realty Group. If you need to sell a home and buy a new one, ask